Okay, now that you've got your Pocket SR put together from the base, we're going to go through some items to make sure everything's going to operate properly. So let's first start at the foot pedal and make sure that its pivot is operating smoothly. The cable is running along the outside of this rod end, as we see here. There might be a little bit of contact, but that's okay. The cable is going to pull this rocker arm, and everything on the rocker arm, including its pivot and all the rod ends, should operate smoothly. The blade should go into the groove of the drive wheel assembly. And everything should spin freely. This roller, these two bearings, the blade, and this roller here. Your Pocket SR is going to be wired for 110 to 120 volts. It's going to come with a 5 to 8 foot long cord. We recommend that you plug the machine into a electrical socket that is as close to your electrical box at your shop as you can. If you want to put it farther away somewhere else in your yard, make sure whatever extension cord you're using is as thick, but usually thicker than the cord that's supplied with the machine. That's the general rule of thumb. So we're going to go ahead and plug this in and test it. To turn the machine on, we're going to move the handle into the forward position. Listen for any unusual sounds coming from the unit. A smooth sound from the motor is a normal operation. The drive wheel is spinning freely as it should. To turn the machine off, push the handle back to the neutral position and always allow the drive wheel and motor come to a complete stop before going into the reverse direction. We are now ready to process our first tire. Go ahead and flip the switch into the forward direction and grab a tire. Here is a normal sized tire. We're going to process one side first, remove the tire in sidewall, flip the tire over, and process the second side. I often find that lowering the tire at a somewhat of an angle to get over the cutting blade assembly works the best. Okay, so what we want to make sure is that as we penetrate through the sidewall, we're not cutting into the steel belt that starts right about here and goes across the tread. Some very light tires are going to want to kick outward. We want to prevent that from happening. So I will actually assist the tire as I penetrate the sidewall to make sure the blade does not cut into the steel belting. This tire does pitch out a little bit. I will assist it for a quick moment upon penetration. This is the first sidewall. Your action with getting the blade into the cutting position should be quick. The faster you make that happen, the better of a process you will have. Here we have a detreaded tire. When you have severely deformed tires, you may have to help the machine along to get through the tire and make sure the cut lines up with itself once you come back all the way around. Let's see how this one acts. Notice how flimsy this tire is. I had to continually pull the tread away so that we weren't cutting into the steel belting. Let's try an ATV tire. This is an LT tire. Okay, we stalled the machine. You have to act quickly to turn the motor off so that you don't potentially harm the motor or trip your breaker in your building. We're stalled. The blade is caught into the cutting position. We need to get the blade out of its cutting position so that we can attempt this sidewall again. To do that, we're going to take our foot off of the pedal and we're going to switch the motor into the reverse direction. That is going to rotate the tire in the opposite direction it was going and snap the blade out of its cutting position. Here we go. We can now stop the machine, put it back into the forward direction, and attempt it again. I tend to find where I was originally cut. I get the blade to come back through. And I make sure that we don't get into that steel belt, as I mentioned earlier. Your Pocket SR was specifically designed to be a very low maintenance machine. Both the drive wheel assembly and the blade are made of specially hardened material, so they should last an extremely long time. We want to make sure on a regular basis that all of the nuts and bolts are tightened. There is no looseness. We also want to make sure that the two bearings, there is one on the top and one on the bottom, inside of the blade shoulder that look like this. We can simply remove this bolt and inspect these two bearings to make sure that the seal is still good and you don't see any ball bearings on the inside. If this seal is compromised, simply call us up and you can order new bearings. The gearbox on the machine does have oil. You can use 80 or 90 weights oil to fill it. Typically, you just want to inspect to make sure you don't see any visual oil leaks coming from the gearbox. If there are no leaks, then you should be fine. Another item we want to check on this machine is to make sure that the cable is not loose inside of the clamps. If that is occurring, simply tighten these nuts, which will clamp the cable in the clamps. To check if the cable is slipping, we go up to the top of the machine and make sure the blade is rotating into its cutting position when the foot pedal is pushed all the way down. As you can see here, the pedal is all the way down and the blade is in its full cutting position. If the machine is being used heavily throughout the week, we recommend that at least once a week we use lithium grease to lubricate this pivot here for the cam arm or rocker arm and the foot pedal pivot down here.